Hey, welcome to the video. My name is Ivan Pashov, and I'm going to be talking to you today on how to sell solar virtually in 2021, be successful at it step by step. As you've probably already seen my video, if you haven't, you can go to my channel and literally see the last video that I made. It was the 3 ways of selling virtually and from a distance. The Google Hangout way of selling, Zoom, and phone sales, okay? Today, we're gonna be going over how to do it step by step and make sure you're successful at it, okay? So we're gonna start with the Google Hangouts, right? Google Hangouts. Now, the Google Hangout way of selling, like I said in the last video, is pretty good because you can actually show your face, you can build trust with the customer, yada yada, and it's really good. I mean, you can have a nice background, you can show them a presentation that you've prepared for them, right? If that's your way of selling. But I want to go over some things that I think are going to be very useful to you if you decide to employ this method of selling. Now, the first thing is when you're selling over a Google Hangout, you're probably going to have to send them a link to join a meeting. Whether that's going to be, the same day, the next day, right, or next week, you will probably have to send them an email, an invitation email to join your Google Hangout meeting. Now, when you've set the appointment with the customer, you need to ask them, okay, do you prefer Google Hangout? Have you ever used Google Hangout? Have you ever used Zoom? What do you prefer? Because I'm sure that if you like to show your face in the camera and do this way of selling where you present to the customer, you have a presentation ready and everything else, then you probably wouldn't mind doing either or, right? So ask the customer what they prefer. And if they already have used the platform, because if they haven't, the chances are that they might get stuck, trying to jump through hoops to get to the meeting, and next thing you know, they don't show up because for whatever reason they found it too difficult. Now, what you want to do is in your welcoming email, or in the email where you send the invitation link to join the meeting, you want to explain, okay? You want to explain exactly how to do that, regardless of whether or not they know how to, join the meeting, whether it's Zoom or Google Hangout, right? Because some people will say, yeah, I've used it, but in reality, they never used it. They just don't want to sound dumb on the, on the phone. So what you want to do is you want to explain exactly how to do it step by step and minimize the chances of them not being able to join the meeting. And now the next thing you need to make sure, and this one is a tricky one, you need to put them at ease and let them know how everything is going to play out when they join the meeting, okay? You need to explain to them that you're going to present to them, you're going to explain to them that you're going to have your camera on so they'll be able to see your face, okay? However, they don't have to turn theirs if they don't want to. Okay, a lot of people are like, oh wow, do I have to show my face on the camera? Like, a lot of people don't like doing that. They wouldn't mind talking to you face to face, but when it comes to a camera, they might be funny about it, right? So you need to make sure that you put them at maximum ease and there's very little friction for the customer to join the meeting, okay? Same applies with Zoom, okay? Zoom and Google Hangouts, like I said in the last video, they're pretty, they're pretty similar. I believe Google Hangouts is a little bit easier to sell, to join the meeting from a customer standpoint. But regardless, you still want to make sure that you explain very, very well and you put them at ease before, before the meeting ever takes place. The next thing you want to make sure is that you build rapport with the customer. Once you're in the meeting, you need to make sure that you build rapport. If you have your presentation ready and you're eager to sell them, okay, don't jump right into selling them, okay? I know you want to make money, okay? Everyone wants to make money, okay? However, if you start immediately by telling them how awesome solar is and why they should, switch to solar, but you fail to build rapport, one, if you do end up selling that customer, they might have a buyer's remorse simply because they don't have a connection with you, okay? So make sure that you do build, rapport with the customer before you ever start selling. And number two is it will probably be a little bit more difficult, in fact, a lot more difficult to close somebody that doesn't trust you and because you haven't built rapport with, okay? So make sure that you build rapport. Very, very important. Doesn't matter what you choose to do, rapport, okay? Now, the next thing I want to go over is how your setup needs to be, okay? The good thing about selling through Zoom and Google Hangout is that you can do it from the comfort of your home, okay? You don't have to be in an office like I am right now. You don't have to do that. You can do it at home, okay? You can do it at your desk. And here's the thing that I want you to keep in mind. Make sure your background looks the part, okay? I don't care if you're gonna use green screen, right? I don't care if you're gonna blur your background. I would not suggest you do that. It looks shady. But if you are gonna have a background, make sure it looks clean, okay? You don't have to have a whiteboard, right? You can have a little flower, okay? Actually, that flower is the flower of prosperity. That's what I've been told, so I went and got it. But anyhow, make sure you have something in your background. Books, okay? Books is a good prop to have, right? When you're doing a meeting and when you're showing your face in the camera. You need to make sure your background looks the part, right? I'm sure you can make the difference between a nice looking background and a background that looks, sketchy, okay? So I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but basically you can have a flower in it, you can have, some books in a shelf, right? You can have a lot of things. You can have a poster that is about solar. Maybe you can have, another thing, you can have your company's logo in the background. Okay, I've seen a lot of people do that. I feel like that's pretty cool. The next thing you want to take care of is you want to make sure that you have a good lighting. Right now, I have lighting, it's right over my head, and I have lighting, I have a softbox right in front of me. It's actually diagonal, but I have a softbox that's giving me a good light, it's giving that video a good lighting, okay? You don't have to buy a softbox, just make sure that the lighting in the room looks good. Because if I was to turn it off, look, I'll turn it off. Look, see the difference? It's still not too bad, but look, that's without lighting. So you want to make sure that you have a good lighting in the room. It's very, very, very crucial, okay? You can actually make a lot better impression if you have good lighting in the room. And the last thing you want to take care of is your clothing, okay? How you're dressed. Now you want to make sure that you look the part. And the best way to do that is have a shirt on, have a nice t-shirt on, right? Or have a company logo embroidered in the shirt, okay? Doesn't matter what you decide to do, just make sure that your shirt is not creased up, it's not, it looks good, it looks presentable, all right? I'm not gonna go into details about that, but that's the good thing about, being able to show your face in the camera is that you can make a good impression. But if you don't look the part, you may leave a bad first impression in your customer's mind without even knowing, okay? Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is phone sales. We already discussed Google Hangout, Zoom, pretty similar. The fact that you got to build, rapport and, the background, clothing, that kind of stuff. Now we're gonna address phone sales. Okay. Now, one thing about phone sales is that, again, you're not gonna be showing your face in the camera. You don't have to have a nice background, okay? However, same thing applies the report building stage. I've seen time and time again, people skip right to the sale, okay? They start talking about solar right from the get-go, and it just doesn't look good, okay? You're not at a point at which the customer can trust you. So how do you expect to sell, 20, 30, 50, 70 grand system on the phone without building rapport, without building trust with the customer first? You won't be able to do that. The chances are that you're gonna fail, okay? So you wanna make sure that at every single appointment, you start off with first building rapport. How do you do that? You be a real human being, okay? Ask them how their day was. Ask them what they did, if they mentioned something about, the weather's a little nice here, or the weather's been kind of bad, right? Talk to them about the weather, right? But spend some time talking to them about, what they want to talk about, and make sure that you can relate to their story, okay? Make sure you spend 5 to 10 minutes. That's a rule of thumb that I like to use. 5 to 10 minutes, rapport building stage, and then you can actually get to the actual sales call, okay? And you're gonna find that it's much easier to make the transition from rapport building to the actual sales call, why you guys are there for, than, hello, I'm the solar guy, right? I'm gonna talk to you about solar today, right? Don't bore them out of their mind, okay? Make sure you become their friend almost before you start selling them, okay? Another thing I wanna mention about the phone sales is that when you do phone sales, and if you have decided to do phone sales, right, as opposed to Google Hangouts or Zoom, and you wanna make sure that because you don't have a presentation, you wanna make sure that your script or whatever you're using to convey the point to the customer is very clear. A dumb person can understand it, right? You need to be able to explain it to a 5-year-old and they'll understand it, okay? If you make it complicated, if you make your presentation or your pitch complicated to the point where you leave the customer confused, they're not gonna buy. A confused customer is not a customer that's gonna buy from you, okay? That's the last thing that will be on their mind, okay? So you wanna make sure you dumb it down and you can explain it to a 5-year-old. You can actually try and do that. If you have somebody around your house or somebody that maybe your kid, maybe your nephew or niece, or cousin, if you have somebody that's 5-year-old, 5, 6, 7-year-old, and you can explain it to them and they get it, there's a good chance that your customer is gonna get it too. Don't think that people understand, kilowatt usage and this and that and the other, all the fancy, solar jargon that we use in the industry. They most likely won't understand it. So we need to always speak to them in layman terms and make sure that they understand everything, okay? Which leads me to my next point. When you are selling, regardless of how you're selling, on the phone, Zoom, Google Hangout, make sure that you ask them at all times, right? Once you've made a point, ask them, do you have any questions? Does that make sense? Do you understand, okay? Because if you fail to do so, you might leave the customer confused, and as you already know, a confused customer is not a customer that's gonna buy from you, okay? And this is going to be a wrap. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took some notes. I hope it was of value to you. If it was, please give it a thumbs up and maybe even share it with a friend who's in the solar community. I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you on the next video.